Hello everyone, this is Aretha. In today's video, I'd like to talk about reclaiming some of the personal power that we so easily give away. And so I'll talk about 3 ways that we can strengthen our relationship with ourselves. There is a common theme throughout my videos, and I hope that people are starting to pick up on it. My ultimate goal is to live a happy, intentional life. And my focus is mostly on myself and what I can do to have the life that I want. I don't believe in trying to get other people to behave the way we want them to, because other people also have free will and they should be free to do whatever works best for them. I am much more interested in working on myself and with myself to achieve the things that I want. I truly believe that in order to live well and be happy, I have to claim agency over my life and build a supporting and loving relationship with myself, so I can work with her as a cohesive team. It's truly unfortunate how often we give away our power to others. We think others know best. But the truth is that other people cannot be as invested in ourselves as we are. And that's only fair. They should be worrying about themselves. So let's look at 3 ways that we can strengthen the relationship with ourselves. The first thing you can do is inspire yourself. There's already a version of you that shows up beautifully, takes on challenges, and accomplishes amazing things. When that version of you shows up, use it as your inspiration moving forward. We naturally have a bias towards negativity. We remember really well the times when we fell short, when we embarrassed ourselves, when we disappointed other people and ourselves, and when we failed. Those negative memories come back to haunt us anytime there's an opportunity. Anytime you try to do something new, you'll remember 10 times when you failed at something new, but you won't remember the one time you did really well. Instead, your brain will try to write off any time you've had success as a fluke. It will tell you that it was a random lucky event, but that's not true, or it doesn't have to be. So be intentional about keeping score of the good stuff. Document evidence that you are awesome, that you can overcome challenges. Keep records of times when you amaze yourself. Collect the praise and the positive feedback that you get, whether it's at work, in your personal business, whether it's just in general as a friend. When people notice nice things about you, keep a record of that. I am sure that you can recall times when you did really well and amazed yourself. What about that time you did really well on your work presentation? What about the time you aced the interview and got the job? What about all the times that you showed up as a trusted, reliable friend or a supportive family member? Your brain will not remember those instances when you are faced with the next challenge. What it will do is remind you of all the times when you fell short, but those times are not the full picture. So in order to strengthen your relationship with yourself, you have to collect evidence of the times when you're showing up as your best version. And that becomes the standard for how you want to behave moving forward. So you are effectively inspiring yourself to be the best version of yourself, quite literally. The second thing I think you should do, and really we all should do, is study yourself. I recently wrote a blog post about developing a reflective practice because I truly believe that's an important part of our personal growth. I'll put a link to that blog article in the description box so you can go read it later. But my point in this video is that you should be periodically evaluating yourself and your experiences. A good way to learn from your experiences is to reflect weekly. Of course, you can reflect daily, but if that is too much of a commitment, I think weekly is a pretty good pace. If you go longer than a week, I'm afraid that you'll start forgetting details and just not getting the same value out of the reflection practice. So at the end of the week, ask yourself what went well that week, what didn't go as planned, why, and think about how you could do things better moving forward. For example, there was a project I worked on a few weeks ago that I had been dreading and putting off forever, and then when I sat down and did it, what I learned was that it only takes 30 minutes of focus time for me to get it done. So now that I know this, moving forward, I can fit it into my schedule a little bit easier, and I can minimize the amount of dread and anticipation that I have because I know it only takes 30 minutes. So your weekly reflection can reveal very profound things about yourself, but it can also just reveal practical ideas for how you can do things a little bit easier moving forward. So in addition to your weekly reflection practice, I think it's really important to do a retrospection anytime you achieve something major. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Anytime you successfully pass an interview and get a job offer, I think it's important to go back and say, what went well? What did I do? What did I do this time that created the right opportunity for me to shine? What was it about the way I presented myself this time that gave me an edge? How did I answer the questions, and what was it that I said that made me the best candidate? I think you can learn from your successes. When you successfully finish a big project at work, especially if it's the first time you did a project of that kind, I think it's really important to go back and do a retrospection and figure out what went well, what could have been better, and what you need to do moving forward to be successful in similar projects. But it doesn't all have to be related to work. Anytime you achieve a personal goal, I think it's also important to go back and figure out what got you there. Why were you successful this time? What can you learn from this, and how can you use it moving forward? But you should also do a retrospection when you fail. What happened? Why did you fail? Where did you not give 100%? What area did you neglect that probably needed a little bit more attention? And how can you make sure that next time you do better? So think about when you have an amazing day. You wake up, you feel energetic, you just go through your day, you're super pleasant, people feel drawn to you, you're just living your best life, you're in your main character energy. At the end of that day, think about what created that feeling for you. Was it because you slept really well the night before? Was it because you had everything planned in advance? Was it because you had a little bit more time to yourself in the morning before starting the day? What was it that created the right environment for you to show up in your best light? And how can you make sure those things become part of your routine so you can show up as an elevated version of yourself more often? Maybe you change your morning routine so you do get 30 minutes of me time before doing anything else. Or maybe you have to be very mindful about respecting your bedtime, because when you wake up well rested, you just go out to conquer the world. So I think you get the point here. Intentionally study yourself and learn from your past experiences, good or bad, and decide how to move forward with what you've learned. Another thing you should do to reclaim your power is to trust yourself and rely on yourself. And here's what I mean by that. Try to answer your own questions before asking for other people's input. So when you face a personal challenge, or you have a question about where you're headed in life or what you should do next, listen to yourself first. So sit down and journal about it. Do some reflection. Write out some potential scenarios. Here are my options, A, B, and C. But dig into your own brain and your own feelings to figure out what your options are. One thing I like to do to try to get my own answers is I randomly start Googling definitions. Because there are words that I understand and I know their meaning, but then I look at the definition and it gives me alternate meanings. And somehow that helps me think bigger and helps me look at my problem from a different perspective. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but I'd be curious to hear about it. So leave me a comment if you Google definitions of words you already know, just to get more clarity on what you're dealing with. Another way to come up with your own answers is to ask yourself what your ideal self would do. So my day-to-day Aretha, the day-to-day version of me, is imperfect, and I get upset with her very often. And sometimes she falls short, and sometimes she's amazing. But there's a version of me that I call my ideal self that never does anything wrong. She is the version I want to be when I grow up. She's always poised, she knows the right thing to say, she's never rushed. She trusts herself, she's very confident, she shows up as her best version all the time. She doesn't have bad days. So then when I'm struggling with an issue, or when I'm trying to resolve some kind of situation in my life, I'll often ask myself, what would my best version do? And that will often give me an answer that points me in the right direction. And if you don't want to think about your ideal self, just think about your future self. So imagine yourself 6 months from now, successful, thriving. You have already overcome this situation, and ask that future version of you, how did she get there? There's something about zooming out of your current state that helps you look at the situation from different angles. It makes you feel a little bit more objective, even though it's still you and you are really subjective. And if none of this works, toss a coin. And I'm not saying here that you're leaving decisions to luck, but when you toss a coin, usually your true feelings will reveal themselves. You will have an immediate gut reaction. So if it's tails, but you wish it was heads, it tells you exactly what you wanted the answer to be, and vice versa. So the coin is just a tool for you to get closer to what your true gut feeling is about the situation. And once you have found your own answer to your question, then you can go and ask other people about their thoughts. But remember that their thoughts are just suggestions. Other people can remind you of what's possible and maybe make sure you don't have any blind spots, but ultimately they don't have the answer. Only you know what you need and what feels right for you. So listen to their feedback and then decide what you want to do. There's a lot of wisdom in you, and there's a lot of power in what you feel and what you know. So learn from yourself, trust yourself, and inspire yourself. This is the most important relationship you will ever have in your entire life. I would love to hear what other people are doing to build a stronger relationship with themselves. So please share your ideas in the comments below. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And here's to living a happy and intentional life.